Hello, and welcome to the Comedy Wine List podcast, where we get to know comedians and wine, one glass at a time. It's me, Steph, wine industry qualified nerd and comedian. Today's comedian is Jen Ives, with the French wine Beaujolais. We filmed and recorded today's episode at Humble Grape in Canary Wharf. It's a beautiful waterfront wine bar and restaurant with a great selection of wines. Jen Ives was a Funny Women's Award finalist in 2019, Leicester Mercury Awards finalist 2019. She came second in the Laughing Horse New Comedian Awards in 2018 and finalist of the 2 North Down New Comedian competition in 2019. There's a lot of lightheartedness, there's a lot of something a bit different, and this style is an incredibly fruity little number, and we had a lovely, wonderful time chatting in Canary Wharf over this kind of fruit bomb of a lovely wine. A great introduction to a red wine if you haven't tried one before, or you're sort of starting out in your journey there. Hopefully you'll get an idea of what a Beaujolais tastes like through my conversation today with the wonderful Jen Ives. Okay, so I brought you here today, Jen, to pair your comedy, of which we've had a little bit of an experience already, with a particular style of wine.
I love that.
Okay, there's a whole formula that goes behind the scenes because I'm like overly analytical person.
I am really curious about what you have devised. It's like one of those tests. You know those tests that you do where you decide, where you find out what your love language is. Is it like that?
That's some of my material as well. I love that kind of shit.
Right. So what am I?
Okay, so the way I do it is, you're a red style wine because your topics. Sometimes you talk about sex, sometimes it's like controversial stuff, all of that jazz.
I'm so edgy.
You're such an edgelord.
Exactly.
So white wine would be more like everyday stuff and relationship stuff.
Like white wine would be like some loser.
All of the white wines that we filmed already, we apologise.
Yeah, it's just like
just
absolute bland losers. To be honest, I like white wine. Like that's like my go-to one generally.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the style of this, so there's light, medium, and full-bodied wines, both in the white wine world and the red wine world. You're a light-bodied red wine, okay? Because your stance on comedy, in my view, is extremely silly. We're laughing at your silliness.
Good.
Medium-bodied we'd be laughing at your struggle, and full-bodied we'd be laughing at the anger and emotion that you're giving to something.
Well, I'm glad it wasn't that one.
No, I think you're silly as balls.
Yeah, I'm not that angry.
Yeah, because I laugh with you, and we laugh together off stage when something silly is happening.
Have you had an angry comic here?
We've had a few red wines,
yeah,
and even sometimes they talk about things like death on stage as well. So I've seen some weird patterns emerge.
Yeah.
But we're laughing at for example, Jack Hester was a red wine because he's sort of we're laughing at the character's emotion more so.
Yeah.
Who else?
Yeah, he gets angry.
Yeah, we've got Jamie Allerton coming in. He's the only sort of full-bodied white wine I've been able to find.
Yeah, that checks out.
And he's pointing at people off the stage and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Doesn't take much. Yeah, it's a strong wine.
Yeah.
Get you drunk.
Exactly. And we're very much laughing at that aspect of his personality. So yeah, have you ever had Beaujolais before?
No.
Wicked.
I've had red wine before.
Okay.
Not to brag or anything. I've had a red wine, but I don't know what it was. I've had that devil one.
Okay, yeah, I know it.
What I'm talking about?
The Diablo one.
Diablo, yeah.
That. That's a really fruity, medium-bodied red wine.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, cool. Okay, we'll see if you like this or not, and you can totally disagree.
Okay. I will like it.
Beaujolais is a little bit of a rebel of a wine. So if you rebel against it, then that's something a Beaujolais would do.
Okay. Why is it a rebel of a wine?
Good question. I'm going to start opening it first.
Okay.
It's a bit of a rebel of a wine because Beaujolais is basically in Burgundy, which is in kind of the right-hand side of France.
Which is like the colour of wine.
Yes, it is. I don't know if that's why we have the name of that colour.
Yeah, maybe.
From the wine region.
Oh, there you go.
We're just making up facts now. I'm going to have to fact it.
It sounds right, though. It does sound right.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's right.
But it's a bit of a rebel because in Burgundy they grow a lot of Pinot Noir, and they make light red wines from Pinot Noir. Beaujolais is made from a grape called Gamay.
Okay.
Which is not very widely grown. It's very, very famous in this area. And back in the 14th century, when they started growing Gamay, it was a little bit of a naughty thing to do because Gamay grows really, really well, and Pinot Noir is a bit of a diva. Okay. So they kind of planted this grape and were trying to like pass it off as Pinot Noir for a while.
Oh, I get you.
So it's a little bit of a cheeky one.
So it's like a deceptive grape.
It is, but at the same time, it grows so beautifully in Beaujolais because of the soils there. So it's got a lot of granite, and it grows better than Pinot Noir. So this is good, isn't it? Just need to like proper tug it.
Is it getting hot? Okay, great.
Should have done that nearer the mic.
You put it.
Come here, baby. Come here. I think I might need to change the input as well.
I have that like anxiety when people open a thing near me.
Oh, like, okay, well, thank God you're not doing champagne with me then.
Yeah, that scares me actually. Like, I remember once this is not really on topic, but once I ordered a KFC back in the day.
This is on topic, food and wine.
Yeah, but this was like 15 years ago. No, it wasn't KFC, it was Chinese. But anyway, they gave us a bottle of Coke. I opened the lid and it hit the ceiling with so much force that it dented like the ceiling. And I remember thinking if I had been looking over it, which I usually do when I open a drink, I look right over it because I want to see what I'm about to drink.
Yeah.
It would have killed me.
I think cork has actually popped into my head before.
Yeah.
Self-inflicted at uni. I was opening like fake Prosecco for a student union ball.
Yeah.
Because I went to Durham and that's what we did up there.
Okay.
And yeah, I just fired myself in the head and I was speaking gibberish for 2 minutes. So that's what not to do.
Did you keep the cork?
I should have. As a little memento.
You know what? Like this is like a thing that like our generation doesn't do anymore, but the old generation was like, they loved doing it. They would like keep all their corks all the time. And my dad's got loads of corks.
My mum has a bag of corks.
There you go.
That she's going to make angels for Christmas.
Yeah, well that's a good practical use for it. I like that. Yeah, but my dad has a cork with like a 50p coin in the top of it. That's something they would do. It was like a meme of the day. Like they would like they would get like a knife and cut like a thing in the top and then stick like a 50p piece in, and it was like, oh, it's a commemorative coin.
Is it like a coin collector and a wine collector's dream to merge the two together?
I think it has nothing to do with wine. I think it's literally just about somewhere to put a coin, but
fair enough.
I don't know, my dad had loads of those laying around when I was a kid.
You speak about your dad a lot in your comedy, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I did. Well, not so much anymore, but I did. Yeah, I talked about him a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're really, they're the light-hearted pieces to your, like, other material, I think.
Yeah, I think as I've got, like, older or, like, done comedy a bit longer, I think, like, I'm verging towards lighter stuff generally anyway.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really... One of the reasons why I don't talk so much about my dad anymore is just because I don't want to upset anybody or anything like that, so I just tend to just, like, try and be silly now.
I get you. I had the same with when I was doing my parents, because... Sounds weird when I was doing my parents, because my mum is Polish and sometimes I used to do her accent on stage, and like it got to a point where I was like, am I just being mean because I want to put an accent in my set?
Well, also I think you know in the back of your mind that you can get away with a bit more with your parents because you know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
You know?
But also I feel like a weird pride from them towards like being featured in material sometimes.
Yeah, they're like funny people, aren't they? Like parents are like stupid.
Yeah, well, we wouldn't be doing comedy, I don't think, if our parents weren't to some element silly or whatever. Or
the opposite, where like sometimes they're like really not silly and then you have to go into comedy because you're like just the oppressiveness of the seriousness of the household. Although that wasn't my house. So I'm just rambling.
I love it, spitballing. Okay, so the first thing we do when we're tasting wine, Jem, is we're looking at it. So now we're just looking at it for 2 minutes.
I like that. I've never done this. Like
the whole thing. So yeah, we're looking at it, then we smell it, and then we taste it.
But what are you looking for when you look at it?
A very good question. So with red wine, we're often looking at the intensity of the colour and how far you can see through it. Okay. So normally we would do this in smaller tasting glasses. And that's the reason I actually bought a white microphone, was to be able to see what you can see through it.
Well, I've got bad eyesight, but I can't see much.
No, it's probably because we've got it in a really big glass as well, and I poured out a nice
not to be pessimistic or like skeptical.
Please do.
But like, what about the condition of room lighting?
Totally.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah, there's a lot of yellow light. It's very romantic light in this room.
Yeah,
and it would definitely impact it.
If like a professional like wine taster who takes themselves really seriously, would they insist on like a certain luminosity?
If they were judging,
of the room? Or would it have to be outside or something?
Not outside, often like quite a bright light for sure. And it even impacts, it goes as far as when you're doing aromas. You can't wear perfumes, and you can't have had a like cigarette before or a coffee before. I've had a coffee before, so
yeah,
bad stuff.
But you've had it before, haven't you, this wine?
I have had it before.
Yeah.
So I know what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
You don't, so I'm looking forward to hearing what you think.
Imagine if the coffee chaser like made it like even better.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a really nice coffee and then tap water afterwards, and the tap water tastes completely different?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
Also, like if you're eating like, there's certain foods that go really well with like coffee or tea. Like it's like cigarettes and coffee, right? I don't smoke, but I always want to when I'm drinking coffee. Yeah.
It's like social smoking,
it's
but
cool.
with caffeine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So when we're looking at this wine, typically Beaujolais is a bit like Pinot Noir in that it can be quite light.
Okay.
But this one is actually, it's got a lot more intensity. It's got a lot more color. I can't really see much through it. It's definitely a deep ruby.
Yeah, it's a strong Ribena, isn't it?
It's a strong
100%.
Ribena.
Like too strong. Like some. If it was Ribena, I'd be like, I don't think I could do that.
I love it. A strong Ribena. Do you feel like you come across as a strong individual on stage?
Yeah, I think so. To my detriment sometimes. I mean, the only reason I'm up there is because I'm trying to find a guy.
Oh my god.
And then I think I mean, it's not actually why, but I do have in the back of my mind all the time that I hope someone will be interested, and I think people get intimidated.
Sometimes I do that. Like if I'm doing anything sexual, I'm like, ooh, maybe there'll be a boy. And I think anytime I touch anything sexual, that's when no one.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's kryptonite. Yeah, that's never good. Like they don't want to hear that.
It's so funny.
But
it's like, but you know, that's my vibe, and that's what I'm putting out.
I fuck.
Yeah, exactly. You got to. It's like humans.
Exactly.
We can smell the wine now.
Oh, can we?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm allowing it.
Is there a way to smell it?
Well, no, but sometimes you can
you swish it around like that.
Yeah. That gets the volatile aromatic compounds
it does smell
around.
nice, you know. It smells... Okay, I'm going to try and analyse it for you.
Beautiful.
I'm going to tell you what I smell.
I'll tell you if you're completely wrong or not.
So something Christmassy in there.
Okay, I like that. I have an idea of what you might be smelling.
Wine.
That's very Christmassy.
Yeah, like mulled wine kind of smell. No, there is something. There's some kind of like berryish smell.
It's a berry,
isn't it? Like not just a grape, there's a berry in there.
So often when we're talking about lighter style red wines, we're talking about red fruits. So cherry, strawberry, raspberry.
Okay.
For sure. All of those guys.
The colour of it is definitely like cherry coloured.
Yeah.
100%.
And what you're actually smelling, there is a really strong compound. Now, I believe there's been some semi-carbonic maceration in this wine.
Me too. Me too. I was thinking that and I didn't want to say.
It was on the tip of your tongue.
Yeah, I didn't want to say that, but... For the listeners, I'll let you explain what that is.
Thank you, Jen. I
don't want,
I know you're such an expert when it comes to semi-carbonic maceration.
Yeah.
Can you smell like a hint of like candied strawberry or bubble gum? It's this really lively
I think
smell.
I can actually.
It's almost like violets as well.
I can't get that, but when you said bubblegum, there is a bubblegum.
Mm-hmm. That is one of the most typical compounds that you can get in Beaujolais if this semi-carbonic maceration has happened. What that is they have to hand-pick the bunches of fruit. They put that in a vat. All of the weight from the bunches at the top squishes the ones at the bottom. So some juice comes out, and that juice gets fermented by ambient yeast on the skins.
We love ambient yeast.
And CO2 starts getting released. As the CO2 starts getting released, the grapes up top burst intracellularly.
Okay.
And get fermented from inside out, and the colour is extracted, and you get that compound of bubblegum on those.
So if anyone's still awake, that was what semi-carbonic maceration is.
So what's the consensus on semi-carbonic maceration? Is it a good thing, or is it a bad thing, or is it just a quirk?
It's a quirk, I would say.
Okay.
Sasha, you have quirks in your stand-up.
Oh, yeah.
gotta squeeze it in somewhere, these links, because you are my Beaujolais. You are.
Okay.
It's a very unique thing to this region. A lot of France wouldn't do semi-carbonic maceration. It makes the grape just so much fruitier. It expresses so much more out of it than you could possibly do without.
So in your opinion, and I'm guessing like generally, like it's considered a good thing?
For Beaujolais, definitely.
Yeah,
and they do it some other places as well. Like
there are places that do it intentionally?
Yes,
okay.
yes. It's always intentional.
All right then.
Yeah. It wants to be fruity and it wants to be delicious.
Okay. It's so weird how like we don't, like wine seems to be like the only thing. I'm sure it's not. I'm sure in like these like weird Illuminati circles that we're in now, like they have these conversations about like I don't know, beef or like sandwiches or whatever, cheese. But yeah, cheese. But like you only usually hear people going so in depth about wine, but not like people don't say like, oh, this. Well, I suppose nowadays like people are a bit more like that with like beer, aren't they?
That's true. There's a whole like nerdy beer movement, but that's exactly what happens with wine.
Yeah,
that's what I was saying about the granite soils.
Mm-hmm.
So there's two different areas of Beaujolais. There's the granite soil place and the clay place, and they taste different.
And which one do you prefer?
Well, you're on granite right now because this is like a nice little appellation called
cool.
Julia.
Cool.
What does this even say at the back here? Oh, volcanic blue stone.
So it says grape variety 100% Gamay.
Gamay, yeah.
And what does Gamay mean, sorry?
Just a grape variety like Pinot Noir.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool.
Or Sauvignon Blanc is.
Mm-hmm.
So back to the quirks of this region.
Yeah. Tell me.
Would you say your style is quite quirky? And how do you write it in, if it is? I think it is.
Well, I think...
So you're wrong, but...
Well, I think the word quirky is like... I guess quirky has like a lot of bad or like negative things like when it comes to comedy, I think. Is like quirky makes me think of like, oh, you've got a ukulele, like you're about to like do a like funny song or whatever. Okay. And actually, I think for the most part, my stand-up is just like quite like observational, but I think not the problem with it, but what makes it seem quirkier is that like the things that I'm observing, they're not necessarily, like I find it really hard to kind of make things really relatable to everybody in a room, because I don't really talk about like general things like having kids or, you know, having my husband did this or whatever, like I don't have those things, so that's why it seems quirky, I think. That being said, I do like different kinds of stand-up sometimes, and I sometimes do like alternative nights, and I'd say like when I do that, like I'm quirky. Watch out.
You gotta have it up.
Oh, sorry, I nearly drank the other. It's just a reflex.
It's a reflex. Because we're about to do that now.
No. Would you say that you're quirky?
No, I don't know what I am, Jen. That's the point of this podcast. It's me trying to understand other people's voice.
With the quirky thing, I think I respect you thinking I'm quirky, because sometimes I have like I know that I have a weird energy sometimes.
No, it's I think it's your mini commentary as you're doing the stand-up. I feel like you have one. You'll be like, you'll say, oh, that was weird, wasn't it? And it's those little moments of quirkiness to me. That's how I'm defining it.
Yeah, I call that insecurity probably.
Oh, I love that though, because that's what makes me laugh, because it's probably how I feel.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I you're right. I'm a real oddball. I'm a real kooky individual.
You are kooky, but yeah,
Zany,
I guess it depends how you're defining it.
Yeah.
Okay, we can drink it now.
Can we? I am excited, because do you know what?
Everything.
A big part of this, isn't it? It's like the build-up. Yes. Like people love a build-up, and I get it. Like I love a build-up. Like it wouldn't be as nice or as interesting if you didn't prolong it. Do
you think that's why people enjoy wine tasting? Because it is a bit more of a theatre.
And I think it's why people enjoy comedy as well, because it's like, you know, if someone just came out and said something funny immediately, you'd be like, okay, give me a minute.
Yeah.
But there's a build-up to a joke, you know.
That makes me feel much better at like when I have to MC a night and I don't have to be immediately funny. Like it's the whole build-up. I'm just building the audience up. It's not actually me being unfunny. So
well, I would argue with MCing that you shouldn't even worry about being funny.
Yeah, people have said that, yeah. And I try and remind myself of that as well.
I think it's like, you know, as long as you're likable, I think that's like the main thing.
Yeah, that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. Let's cheers.
Oh, that was a good sound as well.
Ching!
Okay, so how do I drink it?
That is up to you now. I'm not teaching you how to drink wine. Don't pretend like this is your first time.
But is there a way? But okay. But
the build up. You're like,
there is like sometimes a snobbishness associated with wine. When you go, like, I've never been to a wine tasting, but I've seen it on TV. They're like spitting it out and they're swashing it around.
Yeah.
So, you know.
So that's professional wine tasters. They've probably had to drink like 50 wines that day. You can't be drinking it all. This one, we're not spitting it out. Okay?
No, I'm not going to.
Just having a nice Sunday red wine.
It is a Sunday drink, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
It's like if I had a roast dinner now, this would be perfect. Well, I haven't tried it yet, but a red wine.
It could be, yeah. It could be. We'll see.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to go for it. Yeah, that's really different, actually. Like, from red wines that I've had before.
Okay.
It doesn't have that, like... I'd say, like, the red wines I've had, they're, like, more acidic. And there's, like, more of a sort of, like, a kick to them. This is smooth.
It's beautiful, actually.
Yeah.
I would still say it's quite zingy. There's a lot of fruit there, isn't there?
But some red wines taste like vinegar. This doesn't.
No, because... To be honest, I don't think any wine at Humble Grape would taste like vinegar because I'm
probably not
bigging these guys up, and they've got some decent like selections going on.
That's more.
It's decent. I really love it, but definitely very strawberry-ish, cherry-ish.
And you're right; it does have a zing to it, actually.
So Beaujolais is quite famously known for being quite acidic, and I hate that word acidic because when I tell it to people that don't do wine, they're a bit put off by it, but acid in wine is so important for that like fresh feeling and that nice taste. So it's a good thing.
Mm.
What are you thinking? Like it?
I really like it.
It's smooth because the tannins have probably gone this semi-carbonic maceration thing.
I've heard that word before, tannin.
Oh, good. That's that slight furry feeling you might feel in your mouth after drinking a wine. It's those tannins binding to your saliva.
So what is a tannin?
Tannin is a compound. I don't know if it's a protein, but it's a long chain of molecules and it's found in grape skin. And it gives red wine that structure, that tea bag feel. You can get tannins in tea as well.
So when I eat a grape, not every grape, I don't do this with every grape I eat, but sometimes I will treat myself to a grape where I will bite off all the skin, eat the skin, and then eat the wrinkly innards.
Yeah, okay, that sounded lovely.
I actually have some grapes in my bag, but...
you can show us later.
Yeah, maybe I will.
That would be quite funny to do that.
But you're right, when you eat the skin, it's like got that kind of...
Yeah, that fuzzy,
skinny feeling.
Weird feeling. And then the juice is just sweet and stuff.
Mm.
So that's exactly it. You get the tannin from the skin.
It's cool because, like, so with a red wine, if someone gave me a red wine at Christmas, I would drink it. And if it was Sunday dinner, I would entertain the possibility of having a red wine. Mm. But generally, it's still not my go-to. Like, white is usually what I go to. But this is definitely the nicest red wine I've had. And it tastes so different from the other red wines that I've had that it almost doesn't, in my mind, feel like a red wine.
I get you. And do you know what? I like that you've covered that because Beaujolais is one of those red wines that is so light in style that a lot of people drink it in the summer. Mm. So it's almost like, it's not the white wine of the red wine world, but it's, you know, if you want to introduce yourself to red wine and you're just a white wine drinker, you should probably start on something like this. It'd be gorgeous. You can also chill it a little bit, this one.
Are you allowed to? Are you?
Yeah, and it a lot of people do with this style.
I can imagine it because it's kind of
Have I sold you on something completely new then?
I mean, it depends how much it costs.
Yes, yeah, which we can also state because, yeah, you can see the bottle.
But the thing is, I'm not like a wine skeptic. Like, I know that like wines taste different and there are some wines that I've had in the past that are gross.
Yes.
And then there are some wines that I've had that are nice. But all the wines that I've had kind of like are available in a supermarket.
Yes, yeah. We need to open up your taste buds and start getting you to try new things.
I'm ready to join the Illuminati.
I love it. So this wine actually costs £20.75. So we're getting treated today. But, you know, if you were in a nice restaurant and stuff, I'd easily pay that.
Yeah, no, that's not abnormal, is it?
Nope. Cheers.
Cheers.
I'm loving it.
Can I see the label?
Yeah. Knock yourself out.
I just
and then I can ask you about about your show Peak Trans.
Oh yeah, Laurent Perrachon.
Go on, try it again.
Laurent Perrachon.
Beautiful.
Is that right? Perrachon.
So.
Perrachon. It's Perrachon, isn't it?
Perrachon. I can't see the full. Perrachon, I think.
Oh, is it Perrachon?
Yeah, I think you were right. Now, there's a question I want to ask you about. Okay, I got it. Because I remember I want to actually ask you about your Zoom show, Peak Trans, because I actually watched that in lockdown.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I saw it, and I really loved it.
Oh, thank you.
And everything that involved. But how I wanted to phrase it, because we're doing this silly little thing, was that this region suffers from a lot of hailstorms.
Okay.
And my question to you was, how did you cope with the hailstorm that was the COVID pandemic?
Wow, that's such a good segue. I love that.
So, I tried so hard with that.
So I guess like everybody, like I just took it one day at a time, but there were definitely some moments where I was like, I think it's that thing, it's like I've always considered myself an indoorsy kind of person. Like when I was a kid, like I was always that kid who's like, no, I have friends, but like I'm happy to also be on my own. Like I can be on my own for long periods of time.
That was me as well.
Yeah. Like I could entertain myself.
Mm-hmm.
But COVID put it into perspective for me that like that only counts when it's my choice. And when it's not my choice, I go a little bit mad. And that show that you're talking about, like, so Peak Trans, it doesn't resemble that in any way now at all.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, because it started on Zoom and now it's in the flesh.
It never intended to start on Zoom, you know, it was always something that I've been working on. But it's like, but the reason Next Up asked me about doing it for Zoom, and I thought, well, if I'm going to do it for Zoom, I should probably do something fun with it to make it more fitting with the
format.
Yeah, exactly. So I made like a cardboard thing, and I dressed up, and I got drunk, and
you were wearing lederhosen.
I was wearing lederhosen, and it was fun. I
made us go under our blankets and stuff.
People loved
and it was one of the most creative shows I saw at the Leicester Fringe Next Up comedy thing.
Yes, that's what it was.
Because it was all on Zoom, but it was the Leicester Fringe at the time.
Well, but you can see that it's like a direct, like, escapism thing. It's like everything about it is like about, even though it was still kind of about what I originally wanted it to be about, the format of it was like about, you know, we're going up a mountain, we're doing this thing together, blah, blah, blah. So it was kind of my attempt to make my show as less about my show as my show could be.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
Involving everyone and going on a journey.
Because the actual show as it is now is a lot more like, I think it's more interesting. I think it's like there's more to it. There's more topics and stuff, but it's like, and I think it's funnier, but it's not. Like after lockdown, I tried to do it like how I did it online. I did it at the Warren in Brighton, and I had a tent on stage, and I had the lederhosen.
That's cute.
Yeah, and it was fun, but it wasn't. I was drunker then than I was in lockdown. It was bad. Yeah.
Fair enough. So has it changed like a lot now? Is it just a completely different show, or is it still got the same premise?
No, it's got a different. It's got the same general like the title still comes from the same place, and it's about the same sort of stuff. But so much has happened since then that there's more stuff to talk about, and it's got a different format. It doesn't have the lederhosen anymore. The whole,
that was literally my favourite part. I love lederhosen.
Well, maybe they'll come back, but the literal metaphor of it being like, oh, we're going up a mountain or whatever, I kind of dropped that because it was just, I don't know, it was a fun visual thing, but there wasn't much substance to it, you know?
Got you. Creativity for the need to make it a bit more engaging sort of thing.
Also, it would be like, even though I've done like 50 minutes before like a different show, it would be technically my debut hour, and I didn't want it to come across as too gimmicky.
I see.
Yeah.
Although that brings me joy as well.
But my plan is I'm doing like another thing as well at the moment, which would hopefully I want to do like alongside it. So there might be a second show that is equally as gimmicky.
Okay, I will be attending that one. How have you? So you've taken away the sort of silliness of Peak Trans in the
it's still
visual
silly.
gimmicks. Yeah, how is it still silly? Because I know it's still silly because it's you, and that's your voice.
Well, I mean, probably okay. What I'm doing work in progresses at the moment. I've got one coming up in December, and like it's just that case of like it's all very much like, it's the kind of show that needs work in progresses. Like, it's figuring itself out as I go along doing it, but I feel like it's more interactive now. There's a lot more, like, literal interactive bits with audience. There's a thing that I do with cards on stage. I don't want to give too much away, but it's like a thing. Like a thing. You gotta have a thing, and it's a thing.
When are you doing it next? How can I pimp it out, basically? Yeah,
I'm doing it in December. I can't remember the date, though, but I could send it to you.
Yeah.
It's at 2 North Down in London. So,
awesome.
Yeah, and then I'm obviously taking it to Edinburgh next year, and I'm doing one at Leicester again.
Mm-hmm.
And wherever I can do it.
Basically. You've done not only shows during lockdown, you've done some filming of sketches for Channel 4, was it? Mm-hmm. And there's been a few other little side projects you've been up to.
Yes, that's true.
Just like the Beaujolais region, which also grows other grapes.
They do other things too.
Chardonnay and Aligoté. What other things are you planning on doing in the pipeline?
Well, like I don't know about you, but like I'm always like working on stuff. Like I've always got like scripts and like things that I'm trying to pitch and have my agent like send out to like production companies and stuff. So I'm doing that. Like I've got a couple of like sitcom pilots that I've written. Wicked. And I'm always making like dumb sketches for the internet because I found it to be such a useful, like in lockdown as well, it taught me that like people have this thing where they're like, oh, I've got to be doing stand-up all the time, I've got to be out there. And you do, kind of, but also in lockdown, like I did so much stuff. Like I made so much stupid shit online and people did take notice of it because they didn't have a choice.
I remember now, it wasn't only sketches that you did. Weren't you the person that was doing a stand-up set in your room?
I did do that.
That was epic.
Just to say that I did it before Bo Burnham.
Yeah, you did.
I did. I just didn't do it as well as Bo Burnham.
I would argue that what you were doing was like actual stand-up. It was very raw.
Yeah, it was half an hour. I did a half an hour special. It was called Indoor Plant, and it was me in my old flat performing to my plants.
Like live on Instagram, was it?
It wasn't live on Instagram. It was like, I think I streamed it once, but it was like a, I did it all like a show. It was multi-camera. There was like me like pacing around before going on.
It was the first of its kind that I'd seen. No one else had done it. Jen was the first.
That's my reputation. I'm a trendsetter. I do it worse first, and then someone does it well better after. Yeah, exactly. But no, it was fun. It was. I mean, looking back on it, it's not like it's me at a very specific time going through a very specific breakdown due to very specific circumstances.
Having to be creative because you had this energy in you and we couldn't do anything with it.
And the point of it was that it was like the plants were like the only living things that were in like my vicinity, and then like so I wrote loads of observational material about plants, but it wasn't very good, and like I was trying to do it to the plants. It's like it was just supposed to be a very silly thing. Honestly, like the utility of it was there. Like it totally killed like a day for me.
Yeah,
I conceived it in the morning and I made it like in the evening, and it just was like a day, like a thing to do.
But we've all got to remember what it was like being in that lockdown and how, every day you wake up and you go, I'm going to be productive with my day, and we weren't. To see someone who was actually writing because you enjoy it so much, I think, and it really just fueled your day. It came across that way, and I got a little bit of joy out of watching a few of them.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm glad.
So you're doing them sort of nightly at one point.
I do them all the time. I still do like make stuff all the time. It's because I like making stuff. Like I genuinely do like making stuff, and it is a detriment sometimes. Like some people say, like, oh, wouldn't it be better if you just focused on one thing for a while, and like focused on one script for a year, and the truth is, I am doing that as well. But I also like making stuff. Just because I just have a compulsion to make stupid shit.
Where do you think that comes from? This is now therapy.
Okay. I don't know. I really don't know. Just like I said earlier, like just spending a lot of time as a kid, like on my own, I guess.
Yeah. Are you an only child then?
I'm not an only child, no. I have a sister who's 4 years younger than me, but I was an only child for a bit because I was adopted. So we were both adopted. So it's kind of that weird, like, I've got a bit of both best of both worlds.
Yeah,
I've experienced only childness, and then I've also not been an only child. So
that's nice, actually.
Yeah,
because I am an only child.
Are you?
And I remember wanting a sister or a brother for a long time because I was like, just playing alone in my room with my Barbies and my Beanie Babies. Just,
Hey,
you know.
I mean, no better friend than a Beanie Baby, right?
To be fair, that's why lockdown was so easy for me.
You just got surrounded by Beanie Babies.
And I was in my childhood room again.
What was your favourite Beanie
shit.
Baby, though?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
There were so many. There was a red cardinal, which is like a bird.
Oh, right,
And
yeah.
it was that one, I think, because I'd never seen a bird like that. And I still haven't to this day.
I'd say the one I hated the most was the chameleon.
You always do this. I feel like you do this on stage as well.
What?
You'll make someone go down one route, and I've seen you do this on Next Up when you were at Backyard. What was the question that you asked? You're like, how do you feel about the London dungeons?
Oh, yeah.
I hated the London dungeons.
Yeah.
You're setting them up for like a positive answer.
Well,
and
you do the positive and I'll do the negative.
And you take the tablecloth away, you're like...
Yeah, I guess so. But it's true, though, that chameleon one, though, whenever I went around
I know it, yeah.
I didn't have many Beanie Babies. I had a couple of Beanie Babies, but I used to go around people's houses that had more Beanie Babies. And whenever I used to see that fucking chameleon one, I'd be like, "What's the point of that one?" It's like it doesn't feel it doesn't feel beanie. It just feels like
that's true. It was a bit more rigid, wasn't it?
Yeah, I like the koala and all the classics. I like the classics.
The classics.
I was more of a Furby kind of kid anyway. You know?
Oh no, they creep me out.
No, they're good.
Are they?
Yeah, they're smart. They listen to you and stuff.
They were like the kind of Siri of their day, weren't they? And everyone was worried that they were listening in on our conversations.
Well, they were smarter than Siri. That was the point of them. They were hooked up to the NSA.
Mine is still probably alive in a box somewhere in the loft, just listening to everything through the floorboards. Like,
I have a working one.
Do you?
It's just I've taken the batteries out.
I reckon they still work somehow.
Yeah. This wine is delicious, just so you know. It's really, really nice. I've finished it. So.
Do you want one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great hint. I need more of that on the pod, because normally I'm like, serve yourself. Oh, hang on. Let's do it proper in front of this bad boy, because I've not changed the setting properly on this microphone.
Everyone has this microphone. It's like the podcaster's choice.
It's a very lovely one. It does what it says on the tin. What do you have? Because you do 2 podcasts, I've seen.
So I had this problem with podcasts where I start a podcast, it's very niche, it's something that interests only me, and no one listens to it, so I just stopped doing it.
Welcome to the club!
Right. But in terms of podcasts that I have that are currently still in operation, I have one called Trans Lobby, which I do with my friend P. Deneen. Just it's very like basic kind of thing, but it's funny. Like we just watch movies with trans characters in it, and then just make fun of it really, and just talk about it through the years. It's like a historical dumb thing. And then the other one I have is called the Product Recall Podcast.
Okay, I'm not.
I know you haven't because no one has.
All right, you're like,
I've looked at my stats.
0.
No one listens to it, but I would say that it's worth listening to because it's an important thing, which is basically whenever I see a product recall board or online or whatever, I will
publicize it.
I will tell the people
That's funny.
what's happened. No, it's serious. It's not a joke.
Is there any silliness to it?
No, it's it's serious. Okay. For example, the last episode I did, I learned that a pack like M&Ms, the bags of M&Ms. Waitrose put out a thing saying, if you bought this bag of M&Ms, you need to bring them back.
I buy M&Ms all the time.
You need to just look at them. You need to check them because they might have genetically modified creatures inside them.
Excuse me, what?
So you got to
Excuse me, what?
Well, they didn't say creatures. But, so I phoned
Wait,
them.
what did they say?
So I phoned Mars Corporation on the podcast, and I tried to get to the bottom of it. So it's a very serious, like, because I just think that, you know, these companies, they put out these product recalls, but they put them out in like a really quiet way, subtle way. So I just want to make sure people are getting it. Another one was Argos put out product recalls on these baby chairs, high chairs. Okay. That
I was like, what?
No, that babies were literally falling out of and dying.
Yeah, no, you need to recall the shit out.
So I need to tell them, don't buy it, you know, it's important.
No, that is actually very important.
Holding these companies to account.
The podcast is called?
The Product Recall Podcast.
Listen to it.
No one's listening to it yet, but
it's probably because like all of the corporations that you're calling are like somehow suppressing it in the system.
That's why. That is why.
Illuminati everywhere, just listening in.
But just to drive home how important this podcast is, I recently contacted what they called porkies. Is it porkies?
Yeah.
Because they had to recall a lot of their crisps or whatever due to salmonella.
That's a big deal.
And I contacted them to just check if everything was okay. And they sent me a box of complimentary porkies products, which I can't eat.
Because you're vegetarian.
So if anyone wants that, they can have it.
Nice, offering freebies.
No, because if anyone dies of salmonella, I don't want to be responsible.
That's true. Oh my goodness. So they're not very sensitive as a company, clearly.
I didn't tell them I was vegetarian, but...
Oh, fair.
But yeah.
That's on you then, Jen.
Can I just say, don't listen to that podcast. It's not worth listening to. Although I do compose all the music for it. It's an ambient podcast.
Wait, you do music now?
I've always done music.
Oh, that doesn't come out in your comedy a lot. I only really know what I know through the stand-up side of you.
Yeah, I'm an enigma.
You are very someone who wants to create.
Yeah.
I love that you look down the camera like, enigma.
I am.
Jen is. I can testify to that.
But that's the thing, is like I do a lot of dumb shit and I have that compulsion to like put it out, but sometimes I make things and I put them out under an alias, or I put them out just like over here, or I don't tell anybody. And that would be great if they got attention, but they don't. So when I die, maybe I'll leave like a treasure map, like just listing everything that I've made.
Do something wild, cut off your ear, who knows.
But I really like that side of it, you know, like I like the art side of it and like the kind of weird side of it. It's just not that funny, that's the problem.
Well, I don't know, I would consider myself a fan of yours. You just need to wait.
Oh, I didn't mean generally.
What? I have fans.
I'm funny. I just meant like this more obscure stuff. No one is checking it out.
Well, maybe you're ahead of your time.
That is what it is. I am ahead of my time.
We've nailed it.
When I die, I'll be huge.
A bit like, you know, the Gamay grape was ahead of its time, and it was meant to be where it is now. And
I'm absolutely keen in this. It's so not like
I'm so glad. I love and I think if anyone will ever view this, or one person, or me just rewatching it, it's nice watching someone find something they like for the first time.
Yeah, and the more that I drink it, like now on the second glass, I can taste the bubblegum-ishness a lot.
Yeah, wicked.
Like it is interesting how the different flavours come out the more you drink it.
Very much happens definitely in red wine as well, because the more it's exposed to oxygen, the more those compounds just come to life.
Oh, is that why?
Yeah.
It's oxygenated.
That's why you decant red wine a lot of the time.
What does that mean?
You know those big, basically vases that some people pour red wine into, and you sometimes have it in the middle of the table?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, of course.
That really helps, especially like with really tannic wines, those bigger, bolder wines as well. That will soften it.
Why does that help? Why is that better than just keeping it in the bottle like this? Because it's doing the same thing, isn't it?
So there's more oxygen there in the decanter, and much more of the volume of the liquid is being exposed to oxygen.
Is it more open?
It's more open.
It's more open, okay.
And when oxygen hits wine, stuff starts to change. It opens up, flavours become, you know, like volatile. And that's why a bottle is so specifically like sealed off. But if it has a cork, it can actually change in the bottle over time, because a tiny bit of oxygen is getting through.
Yeah.
And that's one of my questions to you, actually. This style, this Beaujolais, it's got enough complexity. It's definitely going to change in the bottle. It might become a little bit more kind of cooked with age. How do you think your comedy is going to age in the next few years?
It's going to get like stupider, because so the thing is like I've always wanted to like just like the more confident you get with comedy, I think, and the more sort of the less you care about being like clever, like my jokes are so smart, whatever. You care more about like just making people laugh. And actually, like, as much as I love this show that I'm working on, I do think it's good. When it's done, like, it's going to be done, and I'm going to focus on a different direction. I get bored easy. I want to go in like other directions. So yeah, I'm getting dumber.
That's cool. But you're going to evolve in that sense. I know exactly what you mean by needing people. For me, it's a needing someone to know that I'm intellectual, I can write a joke, and then setting that expectation and then going off in that silly direction, and I need to just step away from that a little bit more.
Well, I sound like a bit of a cliche, but I think what happened is that, like, I did this clowning workshop, right?
Awesome.
And nothing like, it wasn't like Goulier or whatever. It was like...
For listeners, Goulier is like it's like the Oxford University of the clowning school world.
And there's as much like verbal and physical abuse that goes along with that as there is in Oxford as well. But you know,
you went to Goulier, because it's in France, isn't it?
It is in France. You did a very insensitive impression of French.
Thank you. That's what we do. And it's all about French wine as well today. So
is it French wine? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But this clowning workshop I did, which was John Davison is called, and it was really honestly so good. Like, because it really put, like, with comedy, it's like, even though doing stand-up puts you outside of your comfort zone, you very quickly get into a new comfort zone with it. And doing the clowning workshop, like, it was like, it just put me so much out of my comfort zone, and it taught me like new things about just not being afraid to fail, just being like sillier, and just like literally just using your body more and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's like invaluable. I think I would always recommend it to anyone, just because it's hard. Like, it puts you outside of your comfort zone a lot. Like, for example, there's this one exercise they do. I always tell people about this one because it's like, I remember the first time I heard about it, I was like died inside a little bit. But what it was it's like, you come in through the door and there's a whole group of people watching you.
Okay.
And there are like, say, 5 points on the floor. There's like a chair, there's like a coat, there's like a coat rack. You have to get from one point to the next, but you can only move when the audience is laughing.
Christ.
And if they stop laughing,
the pressure.
And if they stop laughing for like, you've got like about 10 seconds leeway. If they stop laughing, you have to go back.
Whoa.
And you can't stop until you get to the end.
Whoa.
But what it teaches you that, like, you come in the room. Sometimes people don't even get in the room because they open the door and they're like, hi, and then no one laughs and they have to go back in.
That's quite funny.
But then what happens is, because they failed, people laugh and then they're allowed to come in. So the act of failing sometimes can like propel you forwards. And I don't know, it was just one of those moments where it was like a light bulb went off and I was like, oh, I don't know if you ever read philosophy, but sometimes like you read something and you go like, oh, I never thought of it that way before. And that's what, it sounds simple, but that's what that did for me. I was like, oh, I can just, because, you know, when you write a joke, there's like so much expectation on it. It's like, oh, if people don't like this, if people don't get it, it's like, I've failed, I've bombed. And I think like what the clowning workshop helped me to get over was this idea of like bombing. Like, I don't, like, even if I do bad at a gig now, which isn't, to be honest, not that often, but even if I do, I don't internalize it as a bombing. I kind of just think like, yeah, well, it just wasn't the night, you know, it's fine.
Have you, I mean, I know you have you ever felt that in stand-up comedy? And when was the moment when you finally felt like, I've got it now, I can do this?
So I don't know, I don't remember what the specific moment was, because I feel like with stand-up it's like such a slow process. But I can tell you like a moment very recently where it kind of like really hammered it home for me, is that like, so like I was saying earlier, like I did like an alternative, like I do alternative nights sometimes, and I did one recently called The Paddock, and because it's an alternative night, they kind of want you to do something different or do new material at least. So I was like, well, I'm just going to do a character then. So I did this character called New York Jen, which is just me, but from New York.
Cool.
That's it. And the premise of it is just that, like, I've just arrived into London from New York. These are my views on New York.
I already love it.
These are my views on London. I had glasses on, I had a cigarette, like it was like it was great. But I barely had any material. Like, I didn't really write much. It was a lot of it was just like completely improvised, and kind of like a double-edged sword really, because it went so well that like, and this isn't a brag, it's just to say like afterwards people were like, oh, we love New York Jen, and I was like, oh yeah, but you know, like I've been working on this other thing for like 5 years and you like this more.
That I did on one night, yeah.
But it just goes to show that like, if you're having fun and being silly and people are having a good time, it doesn't matter if your joke's clever or not. You could just be you literally going, forget about it. Like, it's all you need really at the end of the day.
That was brilliant. I feel like that, like literally, that in my mind encapsulates your sense of humour in just like one little motion.
Thanks.
It's just so light-hearted and silly. And
I'm really happy you said that, because that wasn't my reputation when I first started. You know,
that's mad to me. That's how.
I didn't have a reputation when I first started, but my stand-up was a mix of like, oh, that's funny, oh, that's a bit dark, oh, that's like, you know, I don't know. It's just the whole reason I started probably was because I had like a bit of a chip on my shoulder. I've always wanted to like prove people wrong and be like, look, I can do it. But now I think I've like mellowed a little bit. I'm not bothered.
Nice. Much like a wine does in its bottle
like
over
a fine
time.
wine.
So that was Jen Ives on the Comedy Wine List podcast. Do follow us on Instagram at the Comedy Wine List. You can follow Jen on Insta at I'm Jen Ives. So the light but fruity Beaujolais was the perfect pairing for Jen's light-hearted, silly-natured comedy style. Really, really makes you chuckle and giggle if you're at the back of a comedy venue. I have many, many times. She's a real crowd pleaser, which is exactly how I would describe Beaujolais. Jen has always been someone who will reference the exact energy of the room, and I think that really brings everyone into her style of comedy. And I think that's exactly what Beaujolais could do really, really well for you if you are just starting out in your red wine journey, exploring those lighter styles. You can even chill this one. It's fruity, it's fun. It's an incredibly popular style now in the UK at least, and no doubt it will grow in popularity, so discover it for yourself. And if you're interested in discovering Jen's comedy, do check her out at 2 North Down in December, where she'll be running her show Peak Trans, which has gone through Zoom, it's gone through real life iterations of the show, it's changed multiple times, and it's set to be a great one about being a trans woman. I can't wait to see it. So thank you for listening to the Comedy Wine List podcast. We will see you for the next episode, and cheers!